Hey everyone, it's Marathon Money, and you already know what it is. It's stock market time, and pretty much Trump is on a rampage to give different countries their fair share of tariffs bills. Um, the market kind of took a dip, just like last week, last Monday. Um, we had last Monday was deep seek. Now this Monday is tariffs. I guess it sounds like a theme for the start of the year. But besides that, man, it seems like there was like kind of a buying opportunity. But I wanted to get your opinion before we bring up any charts. But Nvidia is like not not holding up. It's like looking like a
Yeah,
sell off.
I still have a 105, 104 area objective I'll show in a minute, based on a sell signal that occurred really a couple of weeks ago. Well, DeepSeek was the real big sell signal. So we could talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I would agree. I think NVIDIA, for the near term, I'm talking like into later February, upside retracements at key points should be considered sell opportunities for those who are inclined to either exit a long position they may be holding, or play the short side as we continue into later February. For those who like to trade the 2 to 3 week time frame, otherwise, there is a great buy opportunity well below in the 104, 105 area. Longer term, I might add.
Yeah, so it's holding, but it seems like it's not coming up like the rest because there was some rebounds last week, and then I guess that was just a quick money grab, and then it kind of retraced back down. So let's see where it holds. But from my chart, my channel pattern out of the week, it's right at it below that down bar, in my opinion. But I don't know if you have a chart up for yourself to see where
I
what you're
do.
thinking.
Want me to show it?
Go ahead.
Let me go ahead and find it. Window. There we are. Can you see this? You can see my chart. We're talking NVIDIA. Kenny, you can see it? Kenny?
Yes, I can see it.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Um, So, this was a sell signal 2 weeks ago. And we talked about this in last week's show when we closed below this pretty classic horizontal structure. We opened below this a week ago, Monday. That was the DeepSeek move. And that did, following the settlement below it, the weekly settlement below it was confirmation of that I'm expecting the 105.03. This is kind of a 6-8 month channel bottom. Holding above 105.03 does maintain the sort of bull pattern, a higher high, higher low. If given the opportunity to buy 105.03, this is an area where you can go long. And I think from here, within 2 or 3 months, we can rotate. I mean, there'll be trouble all the way up, but this channel top, I don't have it labeled, is in the low 160s and climbing. I see that as the likely longer term outcome if you were to buy 105.03. On the way down this week, we do have a 5/8 Fibonacci that did contain today's lows roughly. 113.01 was the low. When I say today's, I'm talking Monday, February 3rd. Any daily settlement below 114.54 does set up a 3 to 5 day bearish continuation down to this targeted 105.03, where once again we could bottom out into possibly through the second quarter. Upside 127.10 all day long is a solid zone to play the short side in anticipation then of bearish rotation back to 105.03 within 2 to 3 to 5 weeks. And this area cannot be ignored either. This mid to upper 130. So, even if we were to close above 127.10, I think that neutralizes a bearish momentum. But in terms of turning the market aggressively up as we move through February and into March, I guess what I'm really saying is this mid to upper 130s is also a solid zone to sell. And we do need to close above 138.99. And then I see a likely low for the first quarter, the market then continuing higher into the 160s, 170s over the following month or two. But right now, it is 127.10. I'll just take us back to this chart because this is really what we're looking at. Below 127.10, expecting 105.03.
Yeah. So my quick question is: do you think the tariffs is going to affect Nvidia to push it down to that 105? Maybe push it down to where it closed below 105. Do you think the
You
tariffs
know,
are going to have effect on that?
I'm not sure. Maybe in the broader sense, is NVIDIA a tariff? I mean, is it
They
a
do
sensitive
get they
stock?
do get stuff from China. They do get stuff outside of the country.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in that respect, I mean, it is what led the sell-off today. Today's low is a new low following that all-time high from January. So I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, if the tariff situation continues to plod along, but he didn't lift today the 10% tariff that he imposed on China. He's only temporarily lifted the Mexican 25% tariff. So it'll be interesting to see. Technically, I think above 114.54, we can make our way back into this 127.10 area because I don't think he's going to do anything new with China for the next month or two. And if we close below 114.54, selling pressures build down to 105.03. But I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Oh, you did. But what do
Mhm.
you think from your perspective? What do you think the effects on tariffs for the rest of the year if they stay where they are? 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, 10% on China, and then ten
Well,
percent on
given the fact
oil.
I I hear you. I think he had a conversation with Trudeau a couple of hours ago. According to Trudeau, went well. Scheinbaum, Mexican president, Trump actually completely relaxed the tariffs on her for the next month. She's promised to put 10,000 troops on the border. Once again, Trump. This is sort of the shot across the bow. But as long as the trading partners make compromises, meaningful compromises, these tariffs will be lifted. As far as China's concerned, that's another question altogether. We might actually get into an outright trade war with China, and that remains to be seen.
That is true. So what's the next? What's the next chart? What's the next
Well, we
stock?
could take a look at the Dow. The Dow, which is not as sensitive to all this Silicon Valley AI wildness, is still constructive. This channel top coming down, I mentioned this last week. We closed above it last week. It's at 442.28. And yes, we've got 451.55. That is the high from November. We could double top here, but we've already essentially double top there last week. I do think, bottom line, holding above 442.28, I'm not afraid to be long the Dow. This is the DIA, by the way. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. ETF. And I do see this by the end of March or sooner, this 467.32. And this climbs into the 470s by early March. This is really 46,732 in the Dow. And this support area is in the 44,000 handle. 44,054 to 44,228. That is your support in the Dow. And I expect the 470s, even the 480s over the next month or two. Now, if we do close back below 450.54 at the end of this week, back below that channel top I just showed and below last week's low, then I see this area, which is a significant long-term support in the 418.04 to 420.84 area. 420.84 especially, that is a channel bottom that goes back about a year and 4 months. It is trend defining off that October 23 low. This is a solid zone to buy into as we move through the second quarter. From here, we can round up to channel resistance within several months. But the setup right now, from what I can tell, is above 442.28. There's nothing to be but long the DIA, anticipating 467.32, this formation rising weekly by the end of March. And if we do close this week back below 440.54, that's just a near term sell signal. 2 to 3 weeks roughly, I would expect, maybe 3 to 5, this 418.04 to 420.84 area. So I'm bullish the Dow. I think that's really what's being shown here. Very tentative though. If we hold above 442.28, I remain bullish. If we close the week below 440.54, I turn bearish near term only. I could take a look at
And I
Lulu if you
think
like. Go
I'm
ahead.
probably one more thing, man. I'm gonna say this. The Dow has shown and proven that nothing is going to stop it. Because last week, when everything was going down, the Dow was holding strong. This week, with the
Mm-hmm.
tariffs, everything else is going down, and the Dow is holding strong. The futures only give you, to me, seeming like a buying opportunity. It drops a
Yes.
thousand points, and then by the end of the day, it's already up 200.
Sure.
So I feel like this is a whole bunch of opportunities to buy the Dow because I have a feeling, me personally, I think before the summer, the Dow is probably going to be at the DIA is probably going to be at 480, in my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion.
Yeah, this
Um,
channel top is 480, 479 by early April. I agree with you. I think that is likely. In fact, if we close this week above this high from November at 451.55, this could be a 2 to 3 week pop to the upside, similar to what we saw from the middle of January into late January. So, but I do think within a month or two of holding above 442.28, we can expect roughly what you call it a 480.
I have my own opinion on the Dow. I think a lot of people, at least a lot of hedge funds, are putting a lot of money towards the Dow because do you really think businesses are going to come back to the US and open manufacturers and gain more jobs because of all these tariffs, or these are just a leverage to have a better trading partner than to have fair trade across the board?
Well, I think the long game is to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but we've been exporting our labor and our manufacturing for decades now. From what I understand, technology itself will allow manufacturing to come back as we become increasingly AI and robotized through software upgrades and breakthroughs. So, from what I'm reading, like in The Economist, manufacturing is likely to come back to the United States to be a more local orientation anyway in the decades to come. And that actually is a cause of concern for countries like China. But near term, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think the imposing of these tariffs is a spook. It does shake people out of their portfolios, and just so they can kind of observe from the sidelines. So I think if the trade war really kicks in, I think the Dow can over the next month or two fall into this significant zone of long-term support. If we were to close below this area, that would be a big sell signal into later year. But for right now, this 418, 420, roughly 41,800, 42,000 is your base of support for the Dow Jones as we move into later year, and above which channel resistance in the 480s and climbing remains a big picture objective.
I agree with you. I think if anything pushes down, is going to push down that people are not believing in the Dow and they're more scared of the tariffs are going to cost them more money. But it seems like the Dow showing that they believe manufacturing, and the Dow's also adapting to the new technology age, which is good because they're adding more technology company to their mixed bag of stocks. So that's
Yeah, as those technology companies climb into the top 30, basically, right?
Yep. Lululemon.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd update because that is a tariff stock, if you will. Lululemon is very reliant on Chinese imports for its Chinese products, raw materials for its product. I mentioned this last week. You've got a very simple horizontal channel structure that goes back to December, so a couple of months of activity. We topped out here last week, and as I said last week, you could short sell for 2061, or if you're long Lululemon, your time horizon is only 3 to 5 weeks, you may consider exiting and then buying again at 368.08, which is the channel bottom. Now, if we close this week above 420.61, that is a bit of a shrug in the face of the Chinese 10% tariffs, in my opinion. Technically, the market then, Lululemon, sets up for a 1 to 3 month rally into the low 500 area. I say 1 to 3 months, depending on volatility. We've seen that kind of a rally that could occur within a matter of weeks, but this is probably more of a 2 to 3 week target if we were to close above 420.61. And this is a 20% move. From here, we could fall back to 368.08 over the next 3 to 5 weeks and fill this consolidation framework out all the way through March, perhaps.
Man, I feel like Lululemon can shrug that off easily. Like I don't feel the 10% China is.
Yeah, it backed off a bit this morning on that news, but not much.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna anything coming out from China importing to the U.S. I don't think it's gonna be a real problem. Causing a trade war over this because they import so much into the U.S.
Yes,
China's just probably going to say, "Look, it's about time to just take it on the chin." That's what I think is going to happen. I don't see them calling a trade war because are we even exporting that much into China?
No.
That's really the question.
but I think the materials, I don't know a whole lot about Lululemon, to be quite honest with you. I'm more of a technician, but I do know that they're reliant on
Yeah, no,
Chinese goods.
talking about overall GDP. Are we like exporting that much into China for them to really be to have a big say so? That's really what it comes down to,
No,
you
we're
know.
not
Because
actually.
Canada,
Yeah.
we export. Yeah, yeah, Canada, we export 155 billion
Hmm.
imported goods into Canada. You know, that 25% makes sense, but I just don't know. Is it worth for China to even try to even tax our export and basically import into them? So I
Yeah.
don't know. I guess why I say this is probably going to get shrugged off.
Yeah, I think so. And for me, the technical indication of the shrugging off would be a weekly settlement Friday above 420.61. And then we have a sustained
Correct.
rally February, March into
Yep.
the low 500 where profits can be taken. This area could be short sold too into later year. This is a long term channel top that goes back about 3 years.
Yep.
What else you want to look at? You want to take a look at Snowflake? That was a market that you threw my way a few
Yeah.
days ago.
Snowflake.
Yeah, Snowflake. So I've got everything on one chart here. It gets a little busy, but I'm going to walk us back from left to right. You had the 110.26 low from 22. We took that out back in August by just a hair, 107.13. And then it was the settlement a couple of months later, back in November, when we closed above this classic descending channel top. After having broken the lows, we closed above this descending channel top. That was our buy signal to long term resistance. Now, this channel top coming down this week, 179.10. It is based on, you're going back to the origins of this stock. Snowflake, you're going back to this low from May of 21. It's a rotational sequence. It is a classic descending long-term channel top. We are above it now. I might add that we closed above it last Friday, but inside the 1% zone. So I like to see a 1% violation of these long-term line studies before I jump on board to the long side. Last week's settlement price was 181.51, which you can see right there in the black bar. Excuse me. We are above that right now. And I think very simply, if we close higher on the week, above that 181.51 settlement price last week, we're also clearly above this descending channel top by a 1% margin. That should set up a 2 to 3 month rally to into the 230s. And for those who are reluctant to play that, excuse me, my chest cold. For those who are reluctant to go long based on what I just said, the last shoe to drop would be a settlement above this 186.90 December high. And that is the last signal you really need to go long. This could be, well, we've seen precedent for a 1 month rally, but this is probably more like, once again, a 2 to 3 month rally. That's a solid, what, that's about a 30% rally, right? Am I doing the
Yeah,
math
I think
correct?
so. I feel like we're getting to that point where the
Yeah.
buy entries start to look really attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now it's just kind of being patient because the truth is, Snowflake has been going on a downtrend, and we're
Uh-huh.
trying to see if it would not only get to the pivotal where we can say this is a buy signal, but stay above. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So because you're
Yes.
going to get a lot of people that have probably been, at the 250, 233s and been sitting on this since, you know, 2021. And then they're probably looking to get it out.
Right. This is a big test,
So
this horizontal
yeah,
structure. You got a 3/8 long-term Fibonacci
huge,
off the extremes
huge,
of this entire
huge test,
uh, stock. Yeah.
huge test,
If we close
huge
if we
test.
close higher on the week, above 181.51, 2 to 3 month rally into the low to mid 230s. Until then, if we fall back and close the week below 179.10, the stock is very susceptible to falling away again. So we're right at a significant pivot point. We're above it. My gut tells me we're likely to get that buy signal. This stock also shrugged off the tariff news this morning. I mean, it opened back below this channel, but we're clearly back above it now. We are higher on the week. And if we just close higher on the week, above last week's settlement of 181.55, I see that as a 2 to 3 month buy signal into the mid 230s.
Why do you think it shrugged off that tariff news?
Um,
Like, do you
you
think
know,
what's so special about Snowflake? Because I know they don't really make money. They have a net income, but so why are people really plunging into the stock and pushing it higher?
I'm actually not sure on those fundamentals, to be perfectly honest with you. I think this was the sell-off this morning was more of a sentimental sell-off with the rest of the stock market. I don't know how susceptible Snowflake actually is to a tariff war. So there you have it. Just going by
Yeah.
the
So
technical.
you know what I used to hear sentimental sell-offs. It's like
Mhm.
what is like can you elaborate on that?
Well, you've got this stock as part of a broader basket of other stocks, and so funds will sell a range of stocks, not just trading individually, but selling indexes or their own customized indexes of stocks that they own as a portfolio or as a basket. And the sell signals, the sell off can occur just electronically based on algorithms. And so it will be part of a basket of other similar stocks and it'll be dragged south at least momentarily. Now, whether there's a sustained sell-off is another question altogether, and that comes down to the fundamentals. But I think this stock looks pretty buoyant to me. We do have a bit of a double top at 186.90, but I think just closing higher on the week, and I'm a long position player as we move into March, April. I think
Yeah,
the
like I said,
236.34
it's
level.
starting to get juicy. And then about the sentimental sell-offs, it's like I feel like those are like bear traps. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They hit certain targets and they show certain volume, and the technical indicators are there. So it's like, man, but people should not fall for those because that's also you get individuals. It's like, oh man, there's a sell-off. Let me get out of this. You know,
That's true. I'll say one more thing about Snowflake, and that is if we settled this week below last week's low of 170.10, that is a sign of weakness as we continue. I don't have an exact target, but I wouldn't want to be long Snowflake if we close Friday below 170.10, and I do want to be long Snowflake if we close Friday above 181.51. It's about as simple as that.
about as simple as that.
About as simple as that.
We don't have to look up the chart. I want your opinion. Tesla is going to be part of that trade war with China. You know, Tesla's one of those companies that get a lot of their products from China.
Yeah, it sure is.
What's
In
your
fact,
opinion? What's your opinion on that?
I could check out a Tesla chart, pretty much right here. This is a 5-year uh, look. Now, here's what I see with Tesla. And these numbers are not correct right now. I don't have updated charts because my son does this analysis. We talk about this stuff every morning. So this week we've got 343.35 and that is your base of support. This is a 2-year channel top we settled above back in November that set up a buy signal up to this 5-year channel top that we had as an objective. 506.79 is this week's number. And so, the question is, are we going to see 343.35 over the next few weeks, or are we going to see 506.79 over the next few months? And, I'm a aggressive buyer in the 340s of Tesla because I think from here we can round up into the low 500 region within 3 to 5 months or sooner of testing 343.35. Right now, we're in the consolidator framework. And if I were to just look at the
So you
daily
don't
chart,
think it's going to fill that gap that's there in the chart?
um, which gap? This gap here?
There's
Which
a
gap?
gap below.
On the daily chart?
It's on the weekly. Maybe you were on the daily. Let me take a look myself because I thought I saw a gap on your chart.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the daily. Yeah. So here's your daily chart. And this is what I'm seeing. So there's your 343.35 2-year channel top. And here's your 505 or the 506 area resistance. And so, and you can, any of your listeners and viewers can see our daily Tesla analysis on our Wicked Stocks YouTube channel. This is a near-term resistance, 414, I think it's 414.13. And this is the breakout as we move into later February, early March at 440.47. This is an area that I actually anticipate over the next 2 to 3 weeks, so long as I'm going to create another chart here for us. So long as in this channel bottom actually held.
Honestly, Tesla's inching closer to that demand range of like between 350 and 325. Um,
Hmm. Well,
man,
this channel bottom
if it
held
doesn't,
today, and that's yeah.
yeah,
This is
it did help today. Yeah,
yeah.
we needed to
My
hold the whole
target.
week.
Yeah, it could actually. In
Yeah,
fact,
we needed to hold.
tested this. I'm telling subscribers that holding above 375.70, you should anticipate over the next 2 to 3 weeks the 440s. And this can hold highs this week, 414.13. We can fall away, but yeah, I think the way I see it, and I don't know whether we're going to actually test 340, 335 before we test 506.79. I will tell you that if we do close tomorrow below 375.70, within 1 to 3 weeks we fall to that 2-year channel top. But until then, we tested a meaningful channel bottom, and from here we can should round up over the next 2 to 3 weeks back into the 440s. So it's kind of a mid 370s to low 440s two-sided framework as we continue into later February. And if we close below that 375.70, 340, 335 likely within a week or two, holding above that 375.70, I think this 440.47 is likely over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So, once again, we're in this consolidated framework. I don't see that ending tomorrow unless we actually close once again below the channel bottom at 375.70.
And just looking at the candlestick and just looking at the low today of like 374, it ate that up real quick. Like people bought that up and it climbed right back up to like 383 where it's at today.
Yeah.
So it seems like people are buying that level as much as can, because back in January 2nd, 2025, same thing, they bought it up and then the next day it climbed back up, and same thing happened on January 2025, 10th January 2025, same thing happened where the low was 377, bought it up right then and there and then climbed back up.
Right.
And like there's like a trend that is happening. And if you go by dollar values, it seems like it's almost like a higher low that's happening here.
Sure.
Because if you start in January 2nd, the 373,
yep,
and that was a green day, and then you got another low of 374. It seems like it's just kind of inching up more. But it did shrug off another stock that shrugged off the tariff. Tesla's a big China importer. They do have quite a bit of stuff that comes from China as well. So it's very important to be aware of that. But like I said, I don't think the 10% is going to be a big deal.
No, it's part of the just the sort of the rough and tumble of trade with China. We've been doing that for decades.
I just don't think China's going to do much about it. They've been, there hasn't been done nothing for decades. It's you can't complain. You milk the cows, it's time to pay for the milk, I guess.
I think that's a calculation by the administration. Only doing 10% just might keep China from doing anything. And so, but if we were to do 25% on China, it would have set off a trade war.
Yeah, I just don't think 10% is going to. I don't think 10% is going to do anything. I think 10% is just saying, hey, look, for decades we let this slide. Maybe it's time to start paying to import stuff into the U.S.
Right. Yeah, but just to recapture Tesla, short-term sell signal below 375.70, then expecting that 340, 335 2-year channel top that could contain selling into later year. From here, we can round back up into the low 500 area within a matter of 3 to 5 months. And inversely, on the same vein, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I expect 440.47. You could buy the mid 370s, expecting the low 440s, where profits can be taken on a 2 to 3 week swing trade. And if we close above 440.47, that is the clarifying signal, I think, for a 2 to 3 week rally up to that 505, 506 area on the weekly chart. This 5-year structure, by the way, may contain buying into later 25 if tested.
Yeah, I agree. I still believe Tesla's going to be at 600 this year. So I think there's a really strong chance for that.
Sure.
The ride from November 2024 has been crazy. So people shouldn't be surprised there's a retracement back down. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Besides that, guys, this is the end of the show. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hey, just want to say thank you to a lot of people tuned in last week. 15K on YouTube since I started, 15,000 views.
Nice.
The last show has over 800,000 downloads combined. So I just want to say you guys appreciate you. That's on Spotify and Apple and like a couple other platforms as well. So yeah, it seems you guys loved it. We'll come up with more stocks, more conversations. And then, I'll keep picking Cary's brain on what he thinks about the world.
Sounds great.
Right.
I'm looking forward to it.
Peace.